Today, I'm speaking with Teri and Sarah. They are the founders of Females Who Side Hustle. I am so excited for this conversation because a lot of the listeners want to start their side hustle, or they have their side hustle and want to go a little more into it, maybe go part-time in their business, part-time in their side hustle. I don't know. So let's just talk to them. Let's teach them a little bit about how you two got started and really about the whole community that you've built.
Amazing. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Of course. I know. I was so happy when you guys agreed to be on because you two are just so perfect and have such an interesting dynamic in your business. So
that we do.
Yeah. So tell us about how you two connected and kind of what your business is about.
So my name is Teri Cannistraro. We both live in Niagara, Ontario, Canada, because I know you're in the States. I am 38 years old. I am a professor. I am a side hustler. I've been side hustling for about 10 years. I'm a mom of 2 babies. I've been married for, oh my God, I think like 11 or 12 years. Hopefully my husband doesn't listen to this. Anyways, we got connected through when Sarah was one of my students, and we weren't super close then, and I was just super attracted to her positivity and her vibe. And it wasn't until she actually became a colleague of mine that we really connected. So I'll let Sarah introduce herself and then we'll talk more about what we do.
So I'm Sarah, also like Teri said, in the Niagara region, but not born and raised. I came here for post-secondary, and I say post-secondary kind of led me here and kept me here because I did my undergrad in speech and language sciences, which is so random, and then switched gears into event management, which is where I met Teri. And yeah, just connected with her as somewhat of a mentor in the space. And I always say she went from like mentor to business owner, soul sister. Now it's just like so connected in our lives. When Teri got back from her maternity leave, that she was like, let's catch up, let's grab a coffee. This was just like a 2-sentence email.
Yeah.
And we ended up connecting, and she's like, I just need something more. I see you doing all these things. I want to do something with other people who are doing things. And I remember that just being the conversation. Like, I need something, and I want to connect with other people who also need something.
I just felt super alone. Like I mentioned before, I had my own wedding planning business on top of what when I was working in hospitality, and then on top of my faculty position in the post-secondary. And I was always, missing things on the weekend, but I loved my side hustle. I loved planning weddings for my clients. I loved the hustle and bustle of it, but a lot of people didn't understand what I did. And so for a long time, I was just like, well, this is what I do. I'm different than everybody else, whatever. And I just kind of kept my head down and did it for a very long time. But then something in me just kind of sparked, and I was like, no, there are other people like me. There are other people who have multiple cups that they need to be filled. And I need to connect with those people because I don't want to feel alone anymore. And literally when I say Sarah's a vibe, I like scanned in my head all of the people that I knew when I was on maternity leave. And I was like, Sarah Singleton will help me articulate what I'm trying to say. And like she mentioned, we met for a coffee, and that evening, she came back with our very first logo of Females Who Side Hustle.
In the conversation we were having, just wanting to connect with people our age, and I say our age, we're 10 years apart. And I felt the same way Teri did, that there wasn't people who were either entering their professional career or doing multiple things in their lives that could openly connect and have conversations and share experiences. And by the end of our coffee, we were like, okay, what about Females Who Side Hustle?
And I was like, yes, like we birthed the baby.
We were just like, we're going to put it out online and see what we get. Like, this wasn't even, neither of us were really into Instagram then.
Definitely, entrepreneurship can be very isolating and very lonely. Everyone looks at us who are in their corporate jobs and are like, oh, you can take time off whenever. You can do this, you can do that. But let me tell you, when I first started my business, I probably took 0 days off, right?
Right.
I'm alone in this, and you two are together, but it's really just you two building your whole business, and taking time off just feels guilty.
Oh yeah.
I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and he ends each episode with kind of a word of advice. And I don't know if he chose this specifically for me, but I was like, he is speaking directly to me here. He said, when we are in this entrepreneurial field, we surround ourselves with other entrepreneurs, right? But in reality, not everyone is an entrepreneur. It's just you are being out here, you're doing your thing, you're being loud about it, but you're surrounding yourself with people like you. And so we get down on ourselves like, oh, they just made 10 sales in one day. They just got 10,000 followers in 2 years, right? That's amazing. But we're comparing ourselves to people who are in the same field when there's so many others out there who are just scared to post on Instagram in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
Who are scared to start their business. We're comparing ourselves to the people who already did it.
Yeah.
When really we shouldn't compare ourselves to anyone, because
yeah.
no one is in the same place as you are.
Right.
And that's one of the main things I wanted to talk to you two about on here. Kind of the mindset around community over competition and really creating your community. So you did create an amazing community of females who feel empowered by you two and feel like they have a space to go. And the whole competition thing is so it's
so like
right?
1800s
everywhere. And so how did you two kind of get to that mindset of, we don't need a business plan, let's just do our own thing and see what happens, let's not compare ourselves to others, let's just do it?
I think one of the things that really kind of drove us and our purpose is, a lot of times when someone has this side hustle, it's looked at as like a bad thing. Like, you can't tell your employer that you have a side hustle because that means that you're unhappy in your job and you want to leave that. And that's not the case for so many of us. I've been doing it for 10 plus years because I have different cups to fill. That's just the one thing about the side hustle. It's like, there's this name, there's a couple different things that like we're trying to debunk about the name. And the first one is that it's not a bad or like dirty thing. And
it's not like your dirty little secret you have to keep. Like, you can
like,
tell people.
You can tell people, and you should tell people about it. And nobody should make you feel bad about having that. For the competition piece of it, when I felt super lonely, I knew, and it's not so much the competition, but I just knew people looked in on my bubble, like into my world, and they just kind of didn't understand it. That's what like kind of switched my mind. And I was kind of like, I just need to tell people more. Like, I don't want them to make an assumption about me. I want them to have the facts about me and what I do. And so that's when I started talking about what I did more, I got a lot of positive feedback. And so that's kind of what sparked the community over competition. Like, we don't need to compete with anybody else. There is so much room for everybody. What Haley does on her podcast and what Teri and Sarah do on their podcast are two amazing things, even though they're in, they're kind of on the same highway, right? But we have our own lane. You don't drive on top of another car when you're on a highway. You're driving side by side and you're like honking and waving. And that's what we kind of wanted to really make sure that we started to change, because competition is exhausting.
Yeah. And the comparison game is like no joke. Like, it can really do damage. And I just think that I've had a really supportive group of women in my life. And I feel like women compete with each other in a lot of areas of life, whether that is by choice or not. And it needs to stop. And entrepreneurship is a lonely road, and you don't need to compare or compete with women who are in the same space or area. So that's where we kind of put our
brains together
and power together.
And birth that baby of all of those things that we want to help other people kind of get rid of.
That's awesome. I work with podcasters all the time. That's my business, Espresso Podcast Production. I help podcasters monetize and make their podcast the best it can be. And I also have a podcast launch course. And so I work with a lot of people who want to start. One of the things they always come to me and say is, there's so many other people in the same niche as me. There's so many other people in the same industry as me. And what I always have to remind them is, just like we have similar podcasts, right? What makes us unique is ourselves. You two have your own chemistry. I have my own thing. That's what I have to tell them. And when I say it, it sounds so common, or it sounds so like typical. Like, you are what makes your podcast special. You are what makes your podcast stand out. But when I say it to them, they're like, You're so right. Like these other people aren't me. It's kind of like a light bulb that goes
It's
off
like
in
that
your head.
smack in the face moment. Like, what was I thinking? Because we say that all the time. Like what you bring to the table is unique to anyone else. You can be in the same space just because that's like the number one, well, I would say like top 5 things that people don't start is because they're like, oh, someone's already doing that.
Mhm.
But they're not doing it how you would do it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, don't let it like hinder your start just because there's other people in that space.
One of the things that, of course, I want to encourage everyone to start their own business. If they hate their 9 to 5, I want this podcast to be able to encourage them to kind of step out of that.
Yeah.
But it's not always reality. For me, my business started because I was laid off during COVID and I was kind of forced into full time in this.
Right.
And so it was perfect for me, but that's not the case for everyone. And so you mentioned it a little bit before, but the whole judgment of having a side hustle and the whole judgment of having your side hustle while you're still working when you see so many other people full time, right? How do we talk to our friends and family about having side hustles? Because I feel like that's scarier than telling like Susan in Minnesota who doesn't know you, right? Like,
yeah. And it comes down to that fear of judgment.
Clients, it's not as scary as talking to like your mother. Oh my God.
I know. So. I remember when I told my dad about females who side hustle, he was like, females who side hustle? Like, what is that? Like, that's a little like risque, Sarah. And I was like, what? No, what are you talking about? So just explaining it more to them, which I feel like explaining what you do as a millennial, explaining it to your parents is hard enough. But just being open and saying, you know what, I'm really passionate about social media and I'm going to pursue that on the side. I'm taking on a couple clients or so I think it stems back to your why, which we always talk about is like, why did you start? Why do you want to do this? I think it's really great we talk about crafting and perfecting your elevator pitch. It's who you are, it's who you serve, and it's why you do it and what you're looking for. So just taking the time to practice that is important.
I would love it if you guys could share a little bit more about your community, how people can find you, and how they can get involved if they want to join Females Who Side Hustle or just like need a community, right?
Yeah. I mean, first things first, definitely connect with us on Instagram. That's where we are probably most active at Females Who Side Hustle. We have our podcast, Save Her Seat, that comes out with weekly episodes, either business advice chatting between Teri and I, or we invite guests on for great conversations with women across many industries to kind of, again, get that kind of curtain pulled behind on entrepreneurship. And we have our website, femaleswhosidehustle.com, where you can get listed as well. So if you want to promote yourself, promote your business, you're able to get listed on our directory.
Yeah. We have a lot of resources. I'm big again about like tangibility, and I want to be able to assist people, not just like on that one-on-one factor, which we do a lot, but I want to reach the masses. I want that person who's listening to this podcast right now, who doesn't know where to start, or who wants to start a podcast, or, you know, has started, but doesn't know how to register their business. I want them to come across femaleswhosidehustle.com, scroll through our blog posts, read that, feel comfort in the words that we're saying, know that we've been through that. I want you to go to our ebook section, and I want you to, you know, download one of the ebooks that we have, and that walks you step by step on some of the things that some of those questions you want answered. Like, we can do that for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, Sarah and I face to face with somebody. So we're really trying to reach those people and kind of like, I don't want to say like the dark corners of the world, because that
like
sounds
a resource
creepy,
hub for everyone who's looking into entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship doesn't have to be a lonely road anymore.
Awesome. I love that. And so I love ending every single episode with you sharing 3 tips that the listener can start doing today. So anyone who's in that kind of, you know, pause in their business or want to start, what do you recommend for them to start doing today?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just start. You hear it a million times,
so cliche,
but everyone obviously needs to still hear it, because there is that hesitation. Just start, get that Instagram, get that email, just put yourself out there. And no one ever said, you know, I wish I started later. Everyone says they wish they started sooner. So just start as your first tip.
Second tip, I would definitely say, be consistent. And I know that might seem very daunting. Like it could just be a matter of you like thinking, about your business one day. It doesn't have to be doing actionable things about your business, but be consistent, kind of in that, ride the wave of what's coming at you. Cause like we talked about before, it is not a straight line. You are not going to be handed an envelope that's full of the secret answers. You are going to feel things that you've never felt before. So understand that there's some ups and downs, and just go with the flow. Like you really just have to do that, or it's going to just be like
all consuming
and not fun and hard. But you can do hard things. Everyone is meant to do hard things. So I think I said like 101. Very sorry about that.
The third thing is to lead with your side hustle, like that as a challenge to do that.
Ooh, I love this.
Because a lot of the times when people say, oh, like, what do you do for work, or what do you do? Why do we by default go to our 9 to 5? Why not lead with like what you're passionate about or what you're looking to pursue? And so I lead with females who side hustle now. Say like I have an online community of like-minded, motivated females who we connect with online, on air, whatever it is. And I also work in post-secondary doing leadership programming. Like you don't have to lead with your 9 to 5. So take a challenge in leading with your side hustle, and that'll help you get more comfortable in explaining what you do and kind of letting judgment roll off your back.
Well, thank you two so much for being on the podcast today. Those tips are so amazing. I'm going to link everything down in the show notes so the listeners can go and find you two, because I want everyone to connect with you. I don't want anyone to feel alone, and you're on the same mission. So
love this.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was great.
Of course.